the World Cafe sessions? Yeah? How many of us were in the World Cafe sessions? Great. So just as has been the practice since yesterday, we had the inputs from all the World Cafe sessions, and we also had inputs from our colleagues who are joining us online. And I know that Kike will be explaining to us and giving us some feedback on how that is going. But we have been able to compile all those recommendations that came into the outcomes room. And I'm sure by now we all understand how this process is working, that we have a slightly different team every time because it consists of the facilitators and rapporteurs for each theme. So you see here today on the stage those who are involved in putting these recommendations together. And soon we'll be hearing exactly what we have come out with that represents the key issues that have been agreed upon. We had so many discussions. You know that it is not practical or not possible that we will be able to reflect every single discussion and decision in the outcomes, but these are a consolidation of all those key recommendations that came out of the World Cafe sessions that each one of us participated in. So I'll hand over to Sydney and Kike, and we'll get some updates on how this went online. And then now we get to the business of getting the feedback on what recommendations we have come up with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samuel. So I'm just going to have a quick chit chat with Kike. What's the status of the online interaction?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We got like over 500 participants on the virtual delegate, and out of those 518 recommendations, we were able to sieve them to like about 90 something, and we also reviewed that and shrunk, those recommendations up to like 8 key themes that we took into the outcomes room, and some of the key points were on entrepreneurship, policies, meaningful participation, non-discrimination, was a very strong, recommendation that kept coming up about young people being discriminated because they don't have skills, because they don't have certain academic qualifications. And during the outcomes, while we were putting the documents together, we ensured that, those key recommendations were reflected in the outcomes.
Okay, great. So those recommendations have been incorporated in the recommendations that are going to be read tonight. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Kike. Edith and Anush, do you have any bits to add as well?
Hello. Yeah. I mean, I was a facilitator at one point and a rapporteur at one point. I just want to say that we all had great ideas, great recommendations, and I really do appreciate the contributions of everybody. And all I can say is that whatever we are going to present here, I think is a fair representation of the universe, if I'm not wrong. Thank you.
All right, Anush.
Well, I'm a part of the steering committee outcome group, and I should say that there are so many things coming up, different themes, and it's a really hard time in the outcome room to go through all of them, make sure that all of them receive their due attention, and it really comes up to the point of discussing every word, making sure that whatever has been come from the recommendations is ending up in the text. It's really a hard work to do, but I think I'm happy with the results.
Yeah, I must agree. I spent a bit of time today as the moderator for the theme in the outcomes group, and I was actually interesting to note that every word that goes into the recommendation has to come from one of the World Cafe discussions or has to come from one of the virtual discussions. Otherwise, it does not make it into the recommendation. So every single word. And I find that really, really interesting because then it takes the outcome group and all of the steering committee people out of the process and puts the process actually in the hands of the participants of this meeting, which is very, very commendable and a difficult process as well to do. I'm going to invite Laura to come up stage and read for the recommendations for us. Please, let's welcome Laura.
Good afternoon, everyone. I will start reading the recommendations, starting by listing the 5 separate recommendations we have set. The first recommendation is focused on the right to decent work. The second recommendation is focused on meaningful participation. The third recommendation focuses on the investing in people and in jobs. Recommendation 4, non-discrimination, equality and gender. And recommendation 5, national policies and plans. I will read them out to you one by one. The right to decent work. Governments should ensure the right to decent work for young people through effective policies and programs that generate employment which is stable, safe, secure, non-discriminatory, and provides a decent wage and opportunities for career development. Governments and all stakeholders should ensure the rights of young people at work are adhered to, including the right to fair hiring and to join and organize labor unions consistent with international conventions. The second, meaningful participation. Governments, in equal partnership with the private sector and young people, with special emphasis on marginalized and vulnerable groups, should invest in building the capacities of young people and in creating and enabling environment for young people to meaningfully participate in all stages of decision-making and implementation of rights-based policies and programs on employment. Investing in people and in jobs. Governments should prioritize creation of jobs and a skilled workforce by increased investment, including from the private sector, through programs that foster youth entrepreneurship and provide capacity building to young people through job trainings using formal and non-formal curricula, education, vocational and employment counseling, quality paid internships, offer social protection, mentoring, and expertise sharing so that young people, in particularly marginalized groups, get the necessary information and skills to access decent work opportunities. Non-discrimination, equality, and gender. Governments and international community, in partnership with civil society organizations, should ensure equal and equitable access to decent work free from discrimination, respectful of diversity, and promoting human development for all young people, in particularly young women with children and other vulnerable and marginalized groups. I will explain the list of marginalized groups, including girls, women, young people who are disabled, LGBTQI, living in rural areas, indigenous, Afro-descendant, ethnic minorities, out of school, sex workers, domestic workers, undocumented workers living with HIV, in conflict zones, refugees, asylum seekers, migrants, living on the street, working in the informal economy, and deprived of freedom. Governments should create enabling environments that provide opportunities for young people and diversified jobs that recognize and value their needs and unique skills, perspectives, and contributions. Governments should guarantee that anti-discriminatory laws and policies Governments should guarantee that anti-discriminatory laws and policies ensure workplace safety and protection from violence for all. Therefore, government must update existing international conventions against discrimination to include vulnerable and marginalized groups of young people and enforce them. Governments. Should I go on? Wait. With equal pay? Should I go back? Next. No, don't think so. Next. Back. Sorry. Governments and the private sector must support young women's leadership in the workforce, thereby contributing to sustainable development. They must eliminate gender disparities in all sectors and at all levels of the workforce and implement and enforce policies that address discrimination of young women in the labor market, including equal access to a range of educational and employment opportunities with equal pay. National policies and plans. Governments should support and protect marginalized groups by strictly adhering to ILO conventions and standards, particularly those relating to domestic workers and provision of parental leave. Governments, in partnership with civil society, the private sector, and employers should implement, monitor, and evaluate gender-sensitive, rights, and evidence-based national youth employment policies, commit to financing programs, and develop legal frameworks to ensure social protection mechanisms, including childcare and access to sexual and reproductive health services. Governments should ensure legal recognition of undocumented workers, including migrants, decriminalize sex work, and eliminating mandatory medical checks that are used as a basis for discrimination. What's happening? Wait. Especially mandatory HIV and pregnancy testing in the general protection, respect, and fulfillment of the rights of all young people to decent employment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. Would you say this is a representation of the discussions that came through from the rest of the group? Laura?
Yes.
And Samuel as well? Yeah? Absolutely. Okay, so can I hear a loud cheer if you agree that this is a representation of the discussions that you had in your groups and in the work cafes? Let's say 1, 2, 3. All right. So I think the ayes have it and the uhus have it. And we are actually happy that we have recommendations that we all are in agreement that is a representation of our views. Definitely there are some ideas that you might have come up with that did not make it into the recommendation. But as I said, it's a consolidation of ideas from 16 different working discussions, both here and around the world. And so we should take advantage and accept and work with these recommendations that we have come up with. And you should feel proud of yourselves as well as young leaders from around the world. Now, thank you very much, guys, and thanks for all the effort you put into making this possible. So for tomorrow, I am told that it's going to be a very, very interesting day. It's the last day for the forum, which is sad, but also the day promises to be very, very exciting. It promises a lot of activities that we would want to be a part of. Some of these interesting activities actually are happening at 9 a.m. in the morning, and so it is very, very, very important that all of you should be here by that time, else you miss some of the fun that is going to happen at 9 a.m. Also, There will be the closing ceremony tomorrow, which you should all be there. And there are some surprises which I hear we have for the young people in this meeting. So I'm told to inform you when you're coming tomorrow, you should come in your dancing shoes and your party clothes. And you come with your energy and all the energy drinks that you can find, because we are partying all night till morning. And we are partying to release all of the stress and all of the nights that we have spent doing the awesome work that we are doing here. I hear there are some artists who are going to be performing for us, and it's going to be a really, really great night. Before we go, the following people, please go back to the UNFPA Secretariat, and there is going to be a meeting in there for you. Victor Abongwa and Kwa Ganston Fosa, forgive me if I don't mention your name properly. Eric Gwenmi, Nefeli Temeli, Pauline Musoke, Chukudera Bridget Okeke. The names I mentioned, please go to the UNFPA Secretariat. There will be a meeting after this is closed. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, everybody. Please give yourselves a round of applause.